Hello and welcome back to the Villa Filler podcast. I'm here as always with my good friend Dan Wiseman. Dan, this is about as happy as you're ever going to see me. Aston Villa have lost 4-1 in a game, but how are you doing, mate, first of all?
Yeah, I'm really good, mate. Really good. And I feel exactly the same. Exactly the same. I'm happier talking about this now than I've been coming after some wins, to be honest with you. But yeah, such was the note of the performance from those boys. Honestly, I couldn't be just brimming with pride. I think pride is the thing. It's not necessarily happiness, is it? It's just pride most of all.
That's it, man. And before the game, there was, I think we'd all be lying if there was just, that tiny 1% in us that are thinking, oh God, I'm really dreading this. It's going to be an absolute drubbing. I think we're, coming into the game before, obviously, if you guys aren't aware of the situation or if you're watching this in 10 years' time, there had been a coronavirus outbreak within Bodymore Heath, which meant that the first team and large parts of the under-23 setup weren't able to play in this game. The average age of the squad today, Dan, 18 years old. 18 years old. And it's a point that they kept reiterating on the commentary. Not that I can't begrudge him for that because if people need to know. And they showed maturity beyond their years tonight, Dan. They really did. And to go to first of all, before we get into Villa, into the players, just how we felt. The fact that Liverpool fielded that team, I'm so sorry, man. Jurgen Klopp, you have lost all of my respect. I don't think he sat at home crying that he's lost my respect to Dan Morgan from the Villa Villa. But for everything he has said about fixture congestion, about injuries, about player welfare, to go and field Sadio Mane, Mo Salah, Fabinho, Wijnaldum, Henderson against a bunch of 18-year-olds, I'm sorry, that is embarrassing. I've got no time for Klopp. I've got no time for anything he says about player welfare. I've got nothing because this game, I mean, realistically, Liverpool should have gone and won this 8-0. Not looking at the game, of course, but ahead of it, if they don't win it by at least 8 and keep a clean sheet, then what's the point? They've completely embarrassed themselves on all parts despite winning, Dan. And it's just an absolute disgrace, really, isn't it?
Mate, to be honest with you, I'm actually glad he did field those players because otherwise it wouldn't have been very much of a contest, actually. When you take away Mane and Salah's goals, if they weren't on the pitch, Liverpool would have lost that game quite heavily. So perhaps they needed those players to give our boys the game.
Absolutely.
No, it's one of those, mate, where, Klopp said before the game that it was the same 11 that would have started the game. He said he was actually sat down in his tactical briefing putting the team together when someone burst through the door and explained what had happened at Bodymore Heath. He said it was the same size that would have played the Villa regardless had the COVID outbreak not happened. And so, that was his explanation. But, I don't want to look too much into the Liverpool team, to be honest with you. I think for the Villa lads, I mean, when I saw that Liverpool team, you're right. I did fear the worst, but the way that those boys stood up for them, I think one of my favourite stats in all of the Villa filler has come from today. And it's that 5 of the Villa players that played today weren't born when James Milner made his professional debut for Leeds United.
That's crazy, isn't it?
Which is just unbelievable. Our starting 11 had made 5 more appearances for Exeter City than they had for Aston Villa.
Wow.
And honestly, when you look at the way that those lads really stood up to it, and when we conceded after 3 minutes, those fears that we felt before the game, after seeing the 11, they really started to come to fruition, didn't we? Thinking, oh God, we're going to see a cricket score here. But I thought even after 15, 20 minutes, the way that we'd settled in, the way we were competing, the way that we didn't seem to be starstruck or like rabbits in the headlights. Each player were doing their roles to the best of their ability and didn't seem, frightened of the stage that they've been thrust upon. And I think just before I throw it back to you, Dan, and just on the narrative that surrounded the game, one of the things that sort of annoyed me most about this game was like how everyone was talking about like what an experience it will be, these players like and all this sort of stuff. And it's like talking about them like they were competition winners.
Yeah.
Like this game was thrust upon these poor 18-year-olds less than 48 hours ago, and you've got to prepare yourselves mentally to play the champions of Liverpool. It's not like some godsend that's been these players like would have been like not dreading this game, but would have been so nervous going into this one because it's easy to portray this as a sort of magic of the FA Cup. Oh, look at these 18-year-olds! What an amazing experience! And I don't know about you, Dan, but if that was me going into this game, I'd be, and excuse my profanity, absolutely crapping myself.
Yeah, I mean, I think I see your point, but I think everybody who is fortunate enough to be in an academy setup who wants to play football, these are the moments that they dream of. And of course, no one could foresee, that they would get their debut for Aston Villa during the midst of a global pandemic in which it has, wiped out the whole of the first team and the under-23s. Because again, to reiterate the point, a lot of these guys are from the under-18s setup, where it's absolutely crazy. And yeah, I can imagine there's so many different feelings running through their heads. A lot of them, whether excitement, fear, anger, frustration, because as you say, this game was thrusted upon them. We don't know if they. I'm sure they clearly took it by. They grabbed the ball by the horns there and went for it. But their safety in more ways than one could have potentially been compromised playing this game, Dad. Not only from COVID, we saw it throughout the game as well. They were pulling up, they were giving little stretches to each other. Their bodies aren't conditioned to play against the champions of Europe, as we'd seen. So to make it out of the game, unscathed in terms of serious injuries, massive plus. Every single player. Genuinely, every single player has so much to be proud for. I don't think I've ever watched a game of football, Dan, and smiled from beginning to end and just left feeling this happy and this proud. Probably one of the most enjoyable games of the year. I say of the year, it's 2021 now, but certainly
it will be. Yeah, it will be.
Exactly. And, since the most enjoyable game that, out of all of them we would have seen last year as well, I'd even go on and say it was, and again, that pressure was never really on. So that's probably why, where the enjoyment came from. But there was plenty to be happy about, Dan. And Odie, he made a plethora of fantastic saves, notably a double save in the first half. Caught himself kind of wrong-footed for the first goal. Again, we're not going to go in on anyone here, Dan. These are kids, and mistakes are going to be made, and they should be. I'm not going to sit here and hang anyone out to dry. I thought the centre back pairing of Mungo Bridge and Dominic Raven, imperious at the back, winning all of their headers, plenty of interceptions made. They looked just remarkable. Silla in the midfield, Dan, he was very good in the tackle, comfortable with the ball at his feet. Who stood out for you, Dan? Because it's hard to pick just one, and I feel bad for any of the lads who we might not mention, because everyone was so good. Even the substitutions that came late on, Young looked really comfortable with the ball at his feet. Plenty of skills from him. Who stood out the most for you, Dan? Of course, Barry's going to be up there.
Yeah, look, and I think, it's important to caveat this with saying the only reason that the Villa were able to achieve anything that they did in today's game was because what they did as a cohesive unit. So It does feel a little bit wrong, doesn't it? Sort of picking out players, but goalkeepers union over here, as you know, of course. What a performance it was from him. It did make you wonder why we've been enduring so many years of Lovre Kalinic and Orjan Nyland when we've had this lad waiting in the wings. Just 19 years of age. Hungarian lad steps into the fore. He looks confident and assured from minute one. And yes, the little technicals like getting his feet sorted out for the goal. That's all experience, and that will come with time. But in just his basic handling, his commanding of the box, he wasn't afraid to come out and meet Liverpool players head on. Threw himself, for the disallowed goal against Salah, threw himself at his boots and got the call there from the referee. Jake Walker ran himself into the ground out there looking like one of the CPU players on pro clubs with the short sleeved and the shirt tucked in. What a look that was from him. Recently recalled from Alvechurch. I didn't even know they had a football team, let alone that Aston Villa had players on loan there. So welcome back to the Villa, Jake Walker. You've done yourself proud. Don Ravan and Mungo Bridge, though, what a pairing that is. Don Ravan and the story of him, joins Villa at 8 years old. He's a Villa fan through and through. Captain tonight. He's actually, it's a player that probably apart from Louie Barry, just because of the hype that surrounds him, Villa fans will be most familiar with from that lineup. He's been on the bench 8 times.
Yeah.
Dunravan, so good to see him. Mungo Bridge, performance almost as good as that haircut. Love to see him at the back. I thought he cleaned up after others when they did get in a muddle or anything like that. Mungo always seemed to be there, just 20 years of age again. And then as you start to go forward, absolutely, Marcelo, what a challenge that was on Jordan Henderson around the half an hour mark around in the penalty box. Got that absolutely spot on. And then it'd be rude to talk about the individuals in this Villa team without picking out Callum Rowe and his pass for Louie Barry, and then the eventual goal. And I tell you what, mate, I haven't celebrated a goal since Grealish's one at West Ham on the last day of the season. And then before that, I couldn't even tell you. The way that I matched him for every emotion that he felt in that celebration, I'd like to think I matched Louie Barry at home. It just erupted over here, and one of my favourite Villa goals, and I think it will stay that way for a long, long time.
It's a night to remember, Dan. It really is. And I mean, everything about the goal, from the way Rowe throws himself in front of Salah to win the ball, has the audacity to carry that forward and then play a defence splitting pass. The run from Barry is so intelligent. He gets just around the other side of Williams, cut straight in front of him, only has one eye on the goal. That's all he needed to do. He knew as soon as he made that run, as soon as the ball was at his feet, that he was going to score. He backed himself to the hill. It's a striker's finish. That kind of instinct, that natural instinct, we haven't seen from our strikers in so long. And, again, no Ollie Watkins slander. I don't think we've even seen that kind of instinct from him. Pardon me for getting carried away here, Dan, but Louie Barry, a player who we signed for around £800,000 from Barcelona, left La Masia, their loss. Shout out to West Brom for developing such a player at such a young age. Louis a Villa fan. His parents are Villa fans. Born in Sutton Coldfield. Education via Barcelona at La Masia, and this is a striker who hopefully Villa can keep their hands on for years to come, because he's a player, as we say, Villa fan. He's already scored on his competitive debut. And he's just doing bits, man. It's the story. And that goal will just be repeated in my mind for the next 10 years, 20 years, God knows how long. But listen, it's, sorry, I just got distracted there. A text from my dad. As Barry walked off, swapped shirts with Fabinho, coach approached him and said, "That's your fucking debut shirt." Nabbed Fabinho in the tunnel and got his shirt back off him. Oh, well, what a touch from, what a touch there. Thanks for the update, Dad. Shout out. But yeah, no, you don't want to, you wouldn't want to swap your shirt. But listen, Barry, a cultured finish, instinctive Dan. As I say, a player who we hope, in the years to come, we'll see it in the Villa squad. I think for so long,
absolutely,
Villa fans have been calling for him to play, and without trying to get too carried away, he's certainly, he's definitely put his name up the pecking order in terms of hopefully being able to make it into a matchday squad or whatever. But if he'd have, potentially been in a matchday squad, been on the bench, got some minutes here or there. Does it take away from this moment? I don't know. But what a night for him and his family, and just for everyone involved, Dan. It was truly amazing.
No, absolutely, mate. And I think I just want to give a bit of credit, because I don't think they'll get any, because it's easy to think that with the sort of academy regeneration and a completely revitalized setup across the board, that this is a product of that decision. But all these players that we're seeing now, bar Louie Barry, who was sort of Mark Harrison, who brought him through at West Brom and then brought him back to Villa, by him, these are all players who have come through under the old establishment. So when you look at the likes, those that Mark Harrison replaced, like Brian Jones, Gordon Cowans, Tony McAndrew, Sean Verity, Ben Petty, those lads that were involved in the academy before they eventually left and Villa had this big shift around. Those guys are responsible for the players that we saw tonight. It's, as I say, it's easy to think that with all the new guys that have come in, the Mark Harrisons, etc., that it's their doing. But these are players that have come in and been involved in that whole academy transition, and I think the way that they've stepped up and represented this club tonight was just amazing. But that Louie Barry goal summed it all up for me. It had the endeavour, the composure, it was when he takes on the ball, you're absolutely right in saying that he shrugs off the challenge and there's only one thing in his mind. And it was that kind of determination that I think was reflected all across the board tonight. It wasn't just shown in Louie in that one moment. All of those sort of 16 lads that I think we brought on 5 subs in the end. It was good to see Sil Swinkles as well, who was brought over from Holland in the summer.
Few great
He's a player
challenges.
that, yeah, I've been really looking forward to seeing him since he came over. So good to see him get some minutes as well. And yeah, I think, to be honest with you, when you look at the substitutes that Liverpool had to make in order to turn this game in their favour, that's just a testament to what the Villa boys did tonight. If you're having to bring on the likes of, Oxlade-Chamberlain, Thiago, Shaqiri, Firmino, just to get yourselves past Aston Villa's effectively under 18s, I mean, Mark Delaney and everyone and his coaching staff can be really proud because they set up some team tonight.
They really did. They've got so much to be proud of. And I mean, the team effort, the togetherness, it was all on show there. And it's amazing, of course, if you look at someone like JJ or Grealish or other players who've come through the academy, made the debut, managed to establish themselves in the team somewhat. Of course, that's amazing. But for these lads to experience this together, that's just amazing. These guys have been in the same squad, a lot of them, for the past 10 years. They've known each other for so long. They've gone on this journey together. And the grim reality of being a professional footballer at that young age is not everyone's going to make it. But that's a night that every single person in that squad can share for the rest of their lives now. They've gone out, they've walked on the pitch at Villa Park. A lot of them have played 90 minutes. They've made a very good account of themselves down against Liverpool. And I mean, every single player for Liverpool, or the coaching staff, everyone should hang their heads in shame. They were an embarrassment. And I think you could see that on the pitch. Villa, to begin with, they showed them a bit too much respect, but then after a few, instances of just getting kicked about a bit, shoved here and there, they grew into the game really well. And listen, I'm so happy for them, Dan. Again, without really going into the game or analysing it too much as we usually do, I think the message is just of pride. And it's amazing that we can sit here and speak about these lads and hopefully see a few of them in and around the first team setup within the next, year, 5 years or whatever. They've got so much to be proud of. I feel it's weird because, in no way are they related to you or I, Dan, but you feel like that kind of prouder older brother watching them go out and do that.
Absolutely.
They've gone
Absolutely.
out, they've done the bits, Dan. And, I mean, just any final words from yourself, mate, on that? Because again, I'm just brimming with pride, man. It's amazing.
Well, I think ultimately when Villa, we're not a club, and we've spoken about this on our transfer rumour mills, Dan, that we're not a club that's often too active in January. And we do have some holes in the squad to fill. If we do see the likes of Bjorn Engels leave, or we'd like a bit more depth at striker, and like these different positions whereby we probably could do with an extra centre midfielder in the squad. These players have really staked a claim to go and be these placements. If Bjorn Engels does end up leaving, then why not give a Mungo Bridge a shot, a Dominic Ravan a shot? If Keenan Davis does end up going to Stoke, then if you're good enough, you're old enough, and by no means am I saying thrust these players into the Premier League, but we've just thrust them into the FA Cup against the Premier League champions, and they've stood up really, really well. And I think, if you're Dean Smith and the first team scouts, you're perhaps feeling a little bit comforted tonight because these players have really shown that when the heat is on, they can really come out the kitchen far beyond their ages. And I honestly feel like a broken record saying how proud I am, mate, but that's all I feel at the moment, really.
Absolutely. And it was lovely to see such kind words, shared from the first team players as well on Twitter, obviously sharing their well wishes. It may seem something small, but I think, perfectly just encapsulates what this club is about, the family nature. We love to bring through these kids, and to see them be supported by, everyone's footballing idol, Jack Grealish, players like that. It's truly amazing. And listen, I'm sure we could sit here forever and just gush about this, Dan, but it's probably about time we do end the podcast so as we can get this one out for you guys pretty quick. Depending on the situation, I think it's highly unlikely that the Spurs game will actually be played due to the COVID outbreak. The negative test came back on the Monday. There's a 10-day isolation period, which is up on the Wednesday, which, that poses all kind of problems. So hopefully that game will get postponed. If it is, Dan, I'm just going to put this to you now. We're going to stream Football Manager on the Wednesday if the game is called off. So if that's
Yes,
something you guys want to see,
yes,
let us know in the comments. We'll get that
yes.
sorted out. I've been researching how to do some streaming, so hopefully we can get that sorted, and you can see Dan and
Love
I
this.
take on the mantle of Aston Villa managers and see if we can do a better job than Dean, because why not? And if there's any more transfer rumor mills, any more news in terms of that, of course we'll hop on that for you guys. But listen, for the young lads today, like this video, comment your thoughts below, let them know how proud you are, and if you aren't, subscribe for more. Up the Villa.